This video explores the ways in which American cities are practicing resiliency in the face of climate change. Specifically, this video focuses on how cities that are at high risk for climate disaster are working towards building a more sustainable city, not only in order to curb the impending impacts of climate change, but also to help their economies. Climate change is an urban problem because, just during the second most recent winter season, several major American cities experienced some of their warmest winters ever. Additionally, methods and actions taken to combat climate change can originate in urban areas, and many cities will be paying for the costs of the impacts of climate change. This is according to meteorologists, academics, and other experts in the field. This video reviews the perspectives of professionals who have studied the issue of climate change, particularly in urban areas, extensively, and who have a wide range of knowledge as to the impacts it has on cities, as well as what actions they can take moving forward. In major U.S. cities, particularly those of the east of the Mississippi River, the winter of 2019 and 2020 never really happened. These cities, which include Cincinnati, Louisville, Nashville, and Washington, D.C., experienced mean temperatures during that winter that were as high as 6.3 degrees warmer than average. Scientists have taken this data and used it to find temperature trends, and they have found variability between increasing and decreasing temperatures from year to year. But as Karen L. Gleason, geologist for the National Centers for Environmental Information, says, the overall trend is warming. She also compares global warming to an escalator that's always going up. In addition, Washington State University School of the Environment climate scientist Deepti Singh states how the Arctic Oscillation, which is the natural weather pattern keeping winter steady across the U.S., had been in a uniquely strong phase throughout this particular winter of 2019 and 2020, keeping cooler air trapped up north, distinct from prior years. During the wintertime, warmer temperatures lead to heavier rainfalls. Scientists argue that this is a result, at least in great part, of climate change. Climate change is threatening cities across the United States with natural disasters, and many of them are unprepared to face them. Although climate change itself may not be responsible for these disasters, with rising temperatures across the country, it is without a doubt exacerbating it. This is a map of archaeological sites along the coast of the southeastern United States that are at risk of damage due to rising sea levels. While this map presents a relatively narrow focus on these sites, the broader implications go much further than just that, as rising sea levels will harm the areas surrounding these sites as well. As sea levels continue to rise, and as climate change causes winds to become stronger, the threat and power of hurricanes dramatically increases. For example, Hurricane Sandy may not have devastated New York City to the degree that it did had it hit the city a century earlier, as sea levels had dramatically risen in that time frame. Additionally, climate change and global warming have given the air more water to hold, which means heavier rainfalls when storms hit. In addition to the physical damage that will be done to cities as a result of climate disaster, the economic impact will also be heavy. According to the Kinder Institute of Urban Research at Rice University, 90% of the, quote, costliest hurricanes in American history have occurred in the past 15 years, and experts say climate change will increase the occurrence of these storms and the damages done. Unexpected expenditures from storms, flooding, snow removal, and drought can lead to major disruptions in business operations and city budgets, end quote. Some of the methods they recommend cities use to fight back against these impending costs include investing in cooling techniques, such as green roofs, as well as implementing clean energy solutions to grow the urban economy. An example of what cities have done to implement climate resiliency is direct action. Specifically, in the city of Detroit, a grassroots organization called Detroit Summer has built hundreds of community gardens throughout the city as a means of self-reliance. And it has, quote, been a catalyst in the revolution that is rebirthing Detroit as a city of hope. The city's early devastation by deindustrialization provided us the space to start anew. It challenged us to make a paradigm shift in our thinking about social justice, says social justice activist Grace Lee Boggs. This is just one of the many examples of measures cities have taken to build climate resiliency. A city that has been deemed to be at high risk for climate disaster, namely drought and extreme heat, is Chicago. One measure in particular the city has taken to combat climate change and to create a more sustainable future is a technique known as vertical farming. Using appliances such as LED grow lamps, which consume much less energy than regular lamps, they have created the largest vertical farm in the world. This initiative has been part of Chicago's change in its zoning laws in 2010. which were changed to, quote, accommodate urban agriculture, introducing provisions for hydroponics and vertical farming operations to run in all planned manufacturing districts citywide, according to Dr. Hank Venema, an engineer with a background in climate change. He also cites the city's vertical farms as an example of the concept of robustness, or that the city is designed to anticipate and respond to potential issues as they make room within Chicago to produce food. Another city impacted by climate catastrophe, specifically by Hurricane Laura in 2020, is Austin, Texas. While not directly impacted by the storm, during such, it served as an area for residents of areas that were to be impacted by the hurricane, primarily in the city of Galveston and on the Boulevard Peninsula, to evacuate and seek refuge. Additionally, the city has been put at a moderate risk for flooding. They have practiced resiliency in the face of climate disaster by working with a public-private partnership known as the Pelican Street Project, or PSP, which Dr. Venema describes as having, quote, the very modest goals of reinventing the energy system of the United States. In Austin, he explains, PSP has tested a smart grid of 1,000 networked residences and 75 businesses using smart metering for both energy and water systems, end quote, which has resulted in savings for energy and water bills for city residents. Additionally, he notes that the success PSP has had in the city creates new opportunities for Austin to attract high-tech partnerships and to further its innovation. He cites Austin's success in climate resiliency as an example of redundancy, quote, that is, fail-safe networks and spare capacity built into a city system to account for disruptions and surges in demand. Despite the strides several cities have made in recent history in practicing climate resiliency, there are still many in the United States that have a long way to go in working towards such a goal. A recent report from the Center for Climate Energy and Energy Solutions finds that, quote, hundreds of U.S. cities already facing social and economic challenges must bolster resilience to climate change if they are to remain competitive and grow economically. Cities such as Miami Beach, for example, could invest $2 billion in home and road elevation and storm protection, which would save the city $1 billion from damage due to climate disaster later on. Knowing the amount of cities that are already facing pressing and trying challenges, many of which are unprepared to face climate disaster, the successes in cities such as Detroit, Chicago, and Austin could be used as examples as to how cities could build the resiliency they need to combat these disasters. Not only would they curb the damage that climate change will inevitably do to these urban areas, but they will also be a massive economic investment, which would create new urban jobs and increase productivity in the areas. The ways in which urban areas have practiced climate resiliency, as well as the benefits that come with these practices and investments, are what other cities need to help them better prepare for the impending challenges that await.